You are now ready to solve a two-step equation. Make sure that you have these notes in front of you. Put your name, date, and your period, which class you're in, up at the top. This is the true 7th grade material. The one-step equations were really 6th grade material with some added integers. So now we get to the meat of it. Two-step equations follow the same rule of isolating the variable. Think of it as undoing the operation. So if you see, what they mean by that is if you see addition, you want to undo it with the opposite. Oh gosh, okay, sorry about the writing. Undo addition or subtraction with the inverse operation, or the opposite, okay? Remember in the beginning of the year, we talked over and over again about the additive inverse. That was really important for you because the additive inverse means what do I have to do to this number to make it 0? Undo multiplication or division with the inverse operation as well, division. So if I'm multiplying, I would divide. If I'm dividing, I multiply. Isolate the variable, and this is really important. When you have two steps, you really should do a check afterwards because it's too hard to really check in your head if it makes sense. So always check your answer. And it's a pain in the neck, and sometimes you won't have time, but whenever you can, we're expecting you to because that's how you can check to make sure you did it correctly. Okay, make sure you have all of this because I have to scroll down, and when I scroll down, everything deletes. Okay, here we go. Whoops, too much. Okay, here's our first two problems. Do this with me, and always remember you can always rewind if you need to. When I look at this problem, the very first thing I need to do is figure out if I'm adding or subtracting anywhere. Because 5 is with the x, that's the last thing I take care of. So I look to see what's being added to the x. Well, the x is adding 9. So the opposite of adding 9 is subtracting 9. And if I subtract 9 on the left, I have to subtract 9 on the right. Think of this as like the balance beam here, okay? We need to keep both sides equal. And we knew that they started out equal because there's an equal sign. Well, if I subtract 9 on this side, it's like the seesaw that you used to ride when you were a little kid. If you take 9 pounds off of one side, you better take 9 pounds off the other side, otherwise it's not going to be balanced anymore. So now these will cancel out, and I'm left with 5x. 17 minus 9 is 8. There's my equal sign again. 5x means multiplication. I need to divide both sides by 5. And you're going to say, well, gosh, that doesn't go in evenly, and it does not, and that's okay. X equals 5 divides 8 one time, and there's a remainder of 3/5. Okay. Just to make sure you understand the process, I'll do checks below. Right now, I want to just make sure you understand this process. Again, on this next problem, I'm multiplying x by a -2, so that's the last thing I worry about. I'm looking to see if there's any addition or subtraction. Yeah, there's subtraction right here. So what's the opposite of subtraction? Addition. So I'm going to add 3 here, and I will add 3 here because we know that that's how we get rid of things. We do the opposite. Keep things the same on both sides. Now I bring down the -2x, and 13 plus 3 is 16. Now this is multiplication, so the opposite is division. If I divide by -2 on each side, that means these are a fancy form of 1. X equals -8. That should be the answer. Number 1 down here at the bottom, I'm going to do one, then you'll do one with me, and then I want you to check on your own to see if you can do it. So in number 1, if you notice, they reversed. Usually you see the variable over here, and it kind of freaks people out when they see it in the middle. They say, I don't know what to do. Well, just think for a second. I'm not going to do anything to the 3 and the k because that's multiplication. I have to look for some addition. I am adding, but most importantly, this is a positive 10. I need to get rid of that 10. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract it because 10 minus 10 is 0. If I do that there, I need to do it on the right side also. So I have 3k equals, and 22 minus 10 is 12. Now I can take care of the rest. This is being multiplied. 3 times k is multiplication. 3k is multiplication. So the opposite is division. I'm going to divide each side by 3. And k equals 4. Now I really need to do my check. So make sure you have this work as it is because I'm going to scroll down and that means I lose the work. Okay, don't forget k equals 4. Let me scroll down for you so we can see all of our work. Now let me do the check for you here. Always, always start with the original problem. So I have 10 plus 3k equals 22. And if you remember up above that we said that k was 4, we think it's 4. So we rewrite 10 plus, but instead of k, we're going to replace the k with multiplying by 4. Okay, so we have 10 plus, what's 3 times 4? 12. Yep, equals 22. And then I always say, well, wait, 10 plus 12, oh yeah, it's 22. And does 22, whoops, that's an equal sign. Does 22 equal 22? Sure does. That's how we know we did it right. Let's go to number 2. I have a negative 4p. Yes, this is on the right side. If that gets you nervous, you can rewrite this whole thing with p on the left side. It does not make me nervous, so I'm going to continue on. I see subtraction here. I'm subtracting 5. The opposite of subtracting 5 is to add the 5. Please do this with me. I'm adding the 5 here. This means I have 24 equals negative 4p. If I divide each side by negative 4, that means p should have a value of, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. So p should equal negative 6. Remember what we do for our check. We rewrite the original equation. 19 equals negative 4p minus 5. This time I know the value for p should be negative 6. So I'm going to rewrite this whole thing again. Negative 4, but in parentheses, negative 6 minus 5. I hope you can see it. So if 19 equals, now a negative times a negative is a positive, and 4 times 6 is 24. So if 24, and when I subtract 5, I do believe that we will get 19. And 19 equals 19. Don't forget, the reason for your check is to make sure you did the work correctly. Okay, very quickly, I'm going to get through number 3. I have to add 8. Add 8 there, add 8 here. The signs are different, so that means I subtract. 16 minus 8 is 8. There were more negatives, so it's a negative. Now I have 1/2 of r. That means I have to do the opposite. I have to really multiply by the reciprocal. So if I multiply by 2 over 1, that should give me a nice number. And then these cancel out, and I have r equals negative 8 times positive 2 is negative 16. And I'm going to do my check very quickly. I have 1/2 r minus 8 equals negative 16. And I know I'm going fast. I just don't want this over 10 minutes. So r is negative 16. And if I have 1/2 of negative 16, I know that that's going to be negative 8. Okay, 1/2 of 18, or 16 is negative 8. Negative 8 minus 8 is negative 16. In the nick of time, Negative 16 equals negative 16. Feel free to pause the video because I went very quickly. We're going to do some practice next.